Wow. Hello, everyone. I'm not really used to a crowd which is this big. My name is Hrvoje, but everybody calls me Chop. I come from Croatia, and I work with my partner, Dean, in Studio Niskota. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it this time, but so I'm here alone. And what I'm going to present today is, well, maybe a bit different from what you're used to on presentations like this, because we're a very small company. We're just 3 people. So my partner, Dean, myself, and, well, the new guy, William. We kind of hired him, a month ago. It's very hard for us to find people who can actually work with us, which you'll probably understand why by the end of this talk. And we're making a living between architecture and visualization. And I say it like that because it's not only visualization work. We actually do much more than that, because sometimes clients come to us with projects which are, well, not really projects. Some of you probably ran into jobs like that, but I'll also mention this later. So we are working, Dean and I, together since 2 years ago in this form, but we've known each other since elementary school, and we did a lot of projects together. Then we kind of figured out that it's pretty stupid to be competition when we can work together, and so we started doing it. And why do we do 3D? We're all architecturally trained. As most of the people in the ArchViz business, we were quite disillusioned by the whole architecture thing, because you get this project and it lasts for 5 years, and then you got to get it licensed and stuff like that. It takes a long time, and it's not all that creative as you would expect when you start architectural school. So for us, it ended up being quite boring, and, well, 3D was always kind of there. We both started as kids, experimenting with stuff, and suddenly it was a job. So I'm going to start with the tools we use. We use a lot of tools, a lot of software, and being a very small company, this is not very usual, but some of the stuff here is classic, which everybody does, and some of the stuff is not that classic, probably these 3, and Deadline, which is something we couldn't really live without, and it's a great piece of kit, which enables us actually to do very fast turnarounds. So what I'm going to talk about here is actually how we approach work in general, because some people who are much smarter than me told me that I should probably talk about things that make us different from other companies. We don't have the world's richest clients. We don't work for the world's most famous architects. But what we do is we produce a lot of stuff very fast and kind of try to keep our quality level as high as we can, sometimes in near impossible conditions. The other important tool we use is, a lot of Xeon processors. And I mean a lot. And we are probably the world's smallest company with a big render farm, which is very important for us. And this is probably a very good time for me to address the question which will surely come at some point in time, so we can just skip it now. So CPU or GPU, right? Everybody asks the same question every time. CPU, for us at least. And the reasons we use CPU rendering is that it's much more robust, in the sense that the way we work is we don't want to care about poly counts. So polygon counts are a thing of the past. It's 2016. I don't even want to know how many millions of polygons I have in a scene. So it's not unusual for us to have like 60, 70 billions of polygons in a scene. We just render it anyway on the farm. And the same works, with textures. All our textures are 4 or 8K. We don't do anything less. And doing it like that makes you forget about things like that. You get to focus on the image. You get to focus on the stuff you're actually doing, what you should be doing on the creative part. Because if you have to think about how to optimize your scene, optimize your geometry, optimize your texture so that it will actually render, you're doing it wrong. I don't want to think if my scene will render. I want to know it will render. And what this enables us is that we get a final image which we send to our clients in approximately 15 to 20 minutes per image or render time. And if you stretch that to 1 day, we could probably deliver 100 per day if anybody could work that fast. So yes, it's CPU for us. And another thing about the render engines is, whenever you post an image anywhere, the first question that appears is, which render engine is it? And that's probably the least important question ever, because a render engine is just a tool. In 2016, again, most render engines do the exact same stuff. And it only matters for you, what you're most comfortable with, what works best for you. It's like clay in sculpture. The clay doesn't make the sculptor does. And it's pretty much the same thing with render engines. And it's funny to see people breaking their heads with the question, which render engine should I use? It doesn't really matter. Use the one that feels the best. The results will come on their own if you know what you're doing. So let's move forward. Before I start going through the images and stuff, I'm not here to show you a bunch of renders, because for me it feels kind of silly to show 3D images to a room full of people who make 3D images. We all do it anyway, so I'm just gonna go through this so you get a feeling of what we do. So, as was announced, we specialize in ArchViz and furniture renders and modeling, furniture modeling as well. So, these are your classic interior shots, exterior shots, something, Ericsson, and there's a lot of that stuff. And we, like I said, model a lot of furniture. These chairs actually are available to download for free on our Facebook page. I'm pretty sure they are. You can check for 3ds Max. There's also a version for Cinema 4D, thanks to Fabio, who is maybe here somewhere. No? Okay. And I don't even know if that works because he made it. So. And yeah, we do a lot of detailed stuff. And that's about it, You'll see a bunch of images along the slides, but yeah, that's kind of the stuff we do. Some of these images were rendered in V-Ray, some were rendered in Corona, and like I said, they pretty much all look the same, and it doesn't really matter. So this thing is what I want to talk to you about today. This is our working philosophy. It's something that we try to stick to every day while doing this kind of work. And I have to make a little disclaimer, because every time you see a list like this, it kind of looks a bit pretentious, Nobody ever in the history of the world sat down with a friend and discussed in advance how they're going to name every part of the things they do, right? That doesn't really happen. So, but unfortunately, in the form of a presentation, I had to, divide it up somehow so I can explain it more easily. These are the things that come naturally to us and have proven themselves to work in the way we do work every day. So I'm just going to start with the thing and explain one by one why it's important for us and why I think some of you should think about it as well. So probably the most important thing I can actually say about doing any kind of CG work is that you should never stop learning, ever. Because the way this industry works is that if you have a very diverse skill set and you're able to do a lot of things, that's very good for you, probably. It's very good for you finding a job. It's very good for you if you're doing a lot of projects. And the second point is, instead of solving problems, it's actually much better to avoid them completely. And by knowing a lot of stuff, you get to anticipate potential problems. And that especially starts being obvious when you start to work on big projects, like very, very big projects. Because when you're working on an interior scene and you have like your kitchen, 2 kitchens maybe, yeah, that's the usual stuff, and you won't get any unexpected issues probably there. But if, for example, at some point in time you get a very, very huge job, and suddenly your Mac starts breaking down, it won't render, weird things happen. And being very fluent in the software you use and in like the back alleys of that software makes you ready for things like this. So it's better to know in advance if something will go wrong than to have to deal with it afterwards, after it happened. Also, if you have a wide spread of skills, it offers you different perspectives on any given problem, which is very important because in CG, in 3D especially, there are hundreds of solutions to every problem. Every modeling problem, every texturing problem has 100 solutions, possibly even more. But only one of them is at the same time the best looking and fastest. Finding that one is not that easy. And having a very wide skill set enables you to actually look at this problem from very different angles and find the solution that works best for you. And of course, the thing is that the more you do this, the more you commit yourself to learning new things, it becomes easier and easier to learn even more things, because all software works in pretty much the same way. Down at the base level, it's all zeros and ones, but when you go up, if you look at Cinema 4D, Max, Moto, whatever, after a while, if you're comfortable with something, it's actually really funny how similar it all is. Those are all like cosmetic changes. There's no big thing you need to know. People say, oh, I could never switch to this. Sure you could. It would probably take you a week if you're like really committed to it. It's not even that hard. You never should be afraid of trying out new stuff, because there's a good possibility some of it will work better for you than what you're using right now. And this approach enables you to adapt to different markets, because sometimes, you're doing 3D. So you think, okay, my portfolio online is showing like a lot of architecture. But some people, when they look at it, all they see is like, okay, this is 3D. They don't consider it, oh, this is an ArchViz artist. They're going to call you and ask for stuff, which may not be things you're comfortable with. It may be, we get called to do assets for a game engine, for example. Why not? It's cool. It's a good change of pace to do something different. So the other thing that probably differentiates us from a lot of other small companies is that we really try hard to do everything on our own. So why? Well, this is an example of one of our tree assets. It's very hard to find decent trees in 3D. So we kind of decided that we should probably do it on our own as well, because sometimes you need a lot of details and you just can't get that anywhere. I think this tree has like 15 million polys or something. So you get control. We like control over the stuff we do. And if we have to outsource, and we really hate to outsource, because then you lose control over the finished product. You lose control over your timeline. If anybody here ever worked with freelancers, who are in a different country or in a different time zone, a lot of time gets lost in communication, just, discussing, sending files here and there. So for us, since we deal usually with very tight deadlines, for us this is a big problem. So we only outsource to very carefully selected people, or maybe better to explain, only to friends. And we do that because it's personal, it's not official. You can consider that as, if you were trying to hire a company to do something, you would probably write a very formal email, like, oh, hello, dear sir, blah, 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 blah. We want you to... Who has time for that stuff? We don't have time for that stuff. So it's much easier to just pick up the phone and, hey, I need a chair. Can you do it? Yeah, sure, okay. Yeah, so it works much better, and you actually saved hours of time, which is funny because nobody thinks about that stuff. And it also saves money, which is always nice, because if you do it on your own, you don't have to pay for it. Well, technically. And it develops your skills. Doing various stuff, sometimes weird stuff appears in scenes, right? Clients want very weird stuff. It's not impossible that one day some client will come and say, okay, but I want a rubber ducky in my bath. So you get to model a rubber ducky, which is probably very fun. So I would much rather do it than go search online and rubber ducky model. And it's a change of pace. So this is very important for me personally, because ArchViz has this danger of becoming pick-and-place work. You start feeling like a pick-and-place machine. You extrude the walls, add some doors and windows, and like a robot assembling an electronics board, taking chips and resistors and putting it, you put chairs and tables and chairs and tables, some lemons, maybe Evermotion lemons usually, and you click render. That's very boring. So it's usually a very good thing to, just jump out of it for a short while and do something like this. You should try it. It's kind of fun. And this is a very important subject as well. So we always try to optimize and kind of automate all the repetitive tasks, because that's the part where you lose most of your time at. And we do it by, having some in-house tools, which, if you saw the presentation from the Brick guys yesterday, is quite similar to what they have, although much simpler. And it only tells that fact tells you that a lot of studios encounter the very same issues while they're working. For example, giving objects to one another in instances in Max, like they showed yesterday. We have pretty much same thing, because you save such an immense amount of time and hard drive space with this very simple thing that it's not even something you can count anymore. It's not like minutes, it's days, literally days in a single month. And repetition is pointless. If something has to be done 200 times, it's not something an artist naturally wants to do. So what we want to do is we want to create, right? And if somebody told you, I'll give you a real life example of this. 2 weeks ago, we had to deliver 1,100 product images. And consider how much time it would take you to open a render dialog in your favorite 3D package and write 1,100 different file names. It would take you quite a while. So what we did is we wrote a few lines of code which automatically names the renders based on the object and material that's being rendered. And we managed to deliver 450 product images in 1 week, and then 500 in the second week, which is the combination of, not doing the stuff which can be automated and having a render farm. Oh, which brings me back to one point. I skipped it while talking about the render farms. I get a lot of questions about online render farms and why do we have a big machine at home instead of using an online render farm. It's because of the way we work, because our scenes are simply too big. And I've heard a lot of stories from people who have much success with online rendering, but honestly, we could never figure out why we should ever do it. Because for me to upload 70 gigabytes or whatever to some server, God knows where, and then wait for the image and hope it will come out right when it gets back and then do it again, it takes too much time, and it should be faster and not slower. So scripting, most of the 3D packages out there have some sort of scripting inside, and I strongly urge you to look it up, to learn something about that stuff, because it's not really hard. It's kind of, once you get into it, it's kind of easy. It may be hard to find resources to learn, but if you keep at it, you'll figure that sometimes you can literally save months of time if you're smart about how you optimize stuff. And yes, the other tools we use are nothing really special. We randomize UV mapping. We have some stuff for very mundane objects like floor tiles and stuff like that, which automatically generate. So nothing really special, but it's one of those things which help you in a way to, just forget about it. If we have to do a bunch of floor tiles, and well, if you're doing architecture, chances are you will be doing a bunch of floor tiles every now and then. I don't have to think about it anymore. You press a few buttons and it generates and everybody's satisfied, looks good. And well, probably the most interesting script we have, and which I cannot really show because it doesn't have a window or anything, is a button on a keyboard, which I use for modeling. So the way it works is that I analyzed my habits while modeling stuff in Max, and I configured a single keyboard button to respond to my habits. So basically what happens is that I select stuff in the viewport and press this single button all the time, and well, things get done. I'm very sad I couldn't I didn't have the time to make a video of it for you. But just imagine a person moving the mouse around and pressing a button on a keyboard for a while. That's probably how it looks like. So let's move forward. Oh, and this is another point which probably makes us a bit different. So we don't actually do any post work because, well, one of the reasons for it is we hate doing post work, and the other is I would much rather leave my render farm to do the work than do it personally. And this brings up a totally different issue because as we all know nowadays, you have two main camps in ArchViz. One is the all 3D nerdy stuff, which is what we do, and atmospheric competition, Photoshop stuff, which some other companies do very, very well. The problem with this division is that it's not actually a division, it's pretty much the same thing, but the thing is that the client base is different. And I'll touch this subject a bit more later in the talk, but let's just say that for now, why we do it this way, because if I did 1 hour of post work, obviously, when you do it like that, you cannot change angles. It's very hard to replace furniture with something else and stuff like that. And most of our clients are kind of, they want to change stuff a lot. So if you do it all 3D, what I need to do is delete a chair, put in a new chair, send it to the farm. In 20 minutes, I get a new image, and I did a minute's worth of work, probably. And, for me, it's kind of logical that I would much rather do a minute of work than an hour of work all over again. And you usually don't have a project which has one image. You have 15 or 20 or God knows how many. And if you do post work on 20 different images and send it over and somebody notices, oh crap, this is wrong. You put the wrong thing on the thing. Suddenly you have 20 hours of work. I don't want to do that. So I just let the render farm do it. Especially a nice feature, a nice bonus you get when doing things this way is that changing camera angles, well, for us, you just click the camera, move it around, render. If you're doing it in Photoshop, well, you have a problem. So basically, it's not an hour, it's more like, 10, 15 hours all over again. So, our clients love this stuff, that they can come and say, just turn it around a bit. This could look better. Then you turn around, and 20 minutes later, he has the image. All is good. And what we usually do is when we model scenes, if we get camera angles which are determined, and they say, okay, we want to see this, we kind of model some extra bits around in advance. Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to want to move the camera. They just don't know it yet. And it saves a lot of time, again, because it's not, when you're into a project, when you're doing it, and it's the kind of, you're in the zone, you're doing stuff, putting some stuff, modeling, texturing, you just do a bit extra. And I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, given the chance, they will want to move the camera. So it's not a problem. We made it not a problem, which for me is something that brings peace of mind, because I don't want to do the same stuff all over and over again. So let's move forward. Take risks. Yes, a lot of companies, especially smaller ones, are very afraid to risk stuff. Well, I have to say that we are not. Anytime we get some kind of project which is totally different and totally new, we say, yes, sure. And it happened with, this is also a point I will get to later, hopefully, if we'll have time. But the thing is, you don't need to, if you're sure of your skills, if you're sure of if you have enough self-confidence that you can learn this stuff, even if you don't know it when you're actually taking the job, which happened to us quite a few times. Yeah, sure, we say, yeah, we can do it. We don't have a clue how to do it, but, you ask for some extra time, and, well, you learn it along the way. And it's actually good because it works with the whole philosophy. You figure out what you need, what you're missing. Is it a piece of software? Is it a plugin? Is it just a skill? Is it a way of thinking for doing whatever new stuff came along your way? You buy it or you learn it, and then you use it. And you use this new stuff, and you get better at it by using it, which is awesome. And suddenly, your skill set is that much bigger. You know more stuff. The next thing you will learn will be easier to learn again. And it's very bad for business to turn down jobs because you don't feel comfortable doing it. And it's bad for you personally, because if you're always working in your comfort zone, you will find yourself very soon stuck doing the very same thing for years, like a plumber. You're changing the pipes, and it's taking years. You have an awesome job. No, don't do it. Do weird stuff. It's very important. And invest. Yes, this is also. This is actually a photo of us buying our new servers. You can invest in skills. You can invest in technology, and you can invest in people. For us, it turned out that investing in our own skills and the tech we have in the office turned out to be much more efficient because it's very easy to manage a microscopically small team. It becomes very hard to manage a large team. As it turned out, for us, it's very hard to actually find people who we would hire because you get this searching online, looking at portfolios, you get these beautiful images. People are making beautiful work, and it's simply breathtaking. But they take 3 months to make this beautiful image, and if they came to work for us, they would have 2 days to make this beautiful image. So that's a problem. Being able to make something look good isn't the same as being able to make it look good in an insanely short amount of time. And that is the skill you want to have. Because only being skillful in making things pretty will not really get you far in this job. And the slower you work, the less money you're actually earning, which is kind of an important point. Any investment that enables you to do a better job in the same amount of time or the same job in less time is a very good investment, and you shouldn't really skip it. But let's move. Who was this? Oh yeah. Well, then this is what usually happens, It's you buy something. It's like, what is this? It's for work. Well, not always, but yeah, I digress. Have fun. You gotta have fun while doing work. And I don't mean that in the millennial sense that, you have to love what you work. No, it's a job. You don't have to love it, you have to be good at it. But it doesn't have to be fun on its own, but it's good for you to have fun while you're doing it. And we try to, keep things fresh and always keep a positive atmosphere in the office. And while we do try to be as efficient as possible, we don't want to be robots, because then it's all pointless. It's not the job I want to do. So one method we use, which is probably interesting, is that we basically all have the same set of skills, so we can all model, we can all texture, we can all light, we can all render. So when we get a new project, we kind of switch things around. So on one project, I do the materials, on another, I do the rendering, on a third, I'll do the modeling. And basically, whenever we get something new, we kind of discuss who wants to do what. Because sometimes you just feel like modeling. Well, I do, at least. I don't know for you, but you feel like making a bunch of very nice textures or whatever. It seems fun in a moment, or this certain project has some objects inside which look very complicated and something, and it's a challenge to model, then yeah, sure, I want to do this. And we always try when we negotiate deadlines to, if we think we need a week for a project, we'll ask for 10 days. Because this is the time not only to fix potential problems, but maybe just have fun. Sometimes there's assets in your scenes which are barely visible but are kind of cool, so we model them as well. For later, who knows, maybe you'll use it. But it's fun, it takes your mind off of the standard thing you're always doing, and I cannot stress enough how important this is. And, well, does anybody here know the movie Dodgeball? Yeah, a few? Okay, so you'll know this one then. It's a quote from White Goodman, from Globo Gym, from the movie Dodgeball. So, but basically, when I say have beer in office, yes, well, we do have beer in our office. It's a metaphor. It's something, you always have to keep a relaxed atmosphere, at least as much as you can, because in creative work, that's very important. Stress limits your creativity. It makes you more tired, and when you're more tired, you do bad work. So it's kind of essential for people working together in teams to recognize when the other guy has had enough. Sometimes you just see on his face, he's had enough, can't do it anymore. And it's nice when you can tell somebody, okay, take a break, I'll just cover for you. I'll, do that stuff, go have a beer, whatever, see you tomorrow. That's a very nice thing. And I think it's very, very important, and it will make your life in the office, well, a lot easier and less stressful. So we get to the idea of the 3D generalist squared. And I call it like that because, ArchViz is, saying it's very special, it would be kind of pretentious, but, it's not Hollywood, it's not VFX, it's not game industry. It's different. You're expected to know a lot of stuff. You're expected to be able to handle various projects, various skills, various techniques, and over-specialization. So if you get really good at modeling chairs, chances are you will be modeling chairs for a long time because you're not really good at anything else. And that's very bad for you. So keeping a diverse skill set, which I mentioned a lot of times before, is better for you. And I'd put my hand in fire on this sentence because ArchViz is like that. You really need to know a bit of everything. And it sits right in the middle of artistic skill and technical knowledge. You need both, and both are equally important. Of course, some of us, slant a bit towards one side, some of us slant a bit toward the other side. But basically, we all meet up in this middle between. And there is no successful ArchViz artist in the world who is not technically skilled. There's no such thing, because it's impossible. We are dealing with digital imagery. We are dealing with digital content. It being digital, technical skill is the core thing you need to actually know. Oh? Sorry, I couldn't really resist this because it was kind of the same. Oh, but I digress again. So basically, this is the kind of guy we would hire. This is somebody I would give a job to, because anything less than knowing everything, kind of sounds weird though, right, is not good enough. If I need you to, at a certain point, something will happen with the project and I need you to fix all the lights in a scene, you have to know how to do it. The answer, yeah, but this is not the thing I do the other thing, is not appropriate. That's not enough. That's not good enough. No, I need you to fix this model because the seams are wrong. Oh, but I don't really know how. No. I need you to unwrap this chair because the new texture the client sent has to be actually placed in a way that the chair has to be unwrapped, but I don't know how to UV unwrap. No. So basically, yes, you need to know everything. You don't have to be excellent or world best at everything, but you have to have a clue about everything. So, okay, I'm gonna try to play this video now. Somehow. Maybe double click it. So this is probably a good time for me to tell you that this is the very first time in my life I've had to use PowerPoint. And yeah, so this is a video. Imagine it's moving. And the Chaos Group guys sent me a template which said, you know, PowerPoint template, so I kind of figured that I should probably use PowerPoint for this. I didn't like it. I have to tell you, it's not something I'm used to. And, well, this is supposed to be playing now. But the thing is, what was going to show on the screen is my colleague Dean making one of our Hrvoje sofas. So it's a very, very detailed 15 million polygon plus model of a sofa, which we usually do for furniture manufacturers and stuff like that, or just, you know, for our own. Oh, sorry, there's actually the video separate on the flash drive, I think. So you can just play it from the outside, yeah, if it's gonna work.
That was the reason it was not working. It was looking for the video.
No, it's embedded.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's the one. Oh, cool, just full screen it, please. Oh, there it is. So you can see the robotic quickness of my colleague. See how fast he is? This is real time. No, in reality, it isn't, but I'm going to tell you how long it took. So this is quite sped up. But the whole process of, you know, beginning from zero to the final image will be shown here. And one part of this video is very satisfying. You'll figure out which one. Basically, you know, we do a lot of stuff like this. And this is the point in the presentation where I have to stress that modeling skills, so knowing how to model stuff, is the core knowledge of working in 3D. You may think you can do a lot of ArchViz stuff without really being very good at modeling, but I can assure you that sooner or later you'll be very disappointed. This is something I keep repeating for years and years everywhere I go, because I meet a lot of people who are doing ArchViz who have problems with these kind of things. It's not enough to, you know, just knowing how to extrude stuff or use some modifiers in Max or whatever there is in other packages, because I'm a Max guy, so I don't really dabble in the other softwares that much, but you have to know the core stuff. You have to understand topology. You have to understand smoothing groups, material IDs, stuff like that. It's pretty low level, but you have to know that stuff, because sooner or later it will save your ass on a project, because something will happen which you won't expect. And I'll actually get to that part after this video. So basically, this is something we do very often, and you can see the whole process from start to finish, how much detail is put into, you know, a model like this. You can tell from here, this is Mudbox, and we're adding the wrinkles. We're not using displacement maps, which is very, well, for more technical of you here, yes, for us, it's a very important part, because displacement maps are very unpredictable. They change with the render engine, so In one, it will look good. In another, it maybe won't. Then you forget to override the gamma value to 1.0. Then it kind of looks wrong. And stuff like that. This works every time. Because it's geometry, you can't go wrong with geometry. Yes, it does have millions of polygons, but like I said, with our process, with our way of thinking, it works automatically because poly counts are a thing of the past. Nobody cares. It will render anyway. This is actually Marvelous Designer, which is also a very, very nice piece of software. And probably your only option if you want to do cloth. In Max and cloth don't really mix. As I'm sure you'll figure out if you haven't already, but no. And, well, we're getting close to the nice part, though. Very close. Okay, so basically, it's a lot of handiwork. It's like, you know, buying a bunch of boards, having a saw, and making a table. A lot of really low-level handiwork. But it's good for you. It's very satisfying, actually. And this is not something, a process like this from start to finish is not something a lot of people in a general ArchViz office know how to do, which, in my opinion, and I know for a fact a lot of people agree with me, is wrong. You should be able to do stuff like this. And very soon, this is going to be over. In a few seconds, come on, come on. So there was a photo online and of this. This is, I think it's a FlexForm pleasure sofa, and everything was recreated actually from that same photo. And yes, it's going to be any second now. Just keep watching. Also, you will see our post-processing. Okay. Ah, there we are. Wait for it. Ah, there it is. Isn't that beautiful? So satisfying. Oh, look at that. Yeah. So this is why I want to have a render farm. You can make a GIF out of this and show it to your friends on Facebook. Like. And this is the post work. Oh, vignette, yeah. Okay, that's done. So, yeah, that was it. Let me just stop this. Okay, and go back to the presentation. So this is what it looks like in the end. We changed a bit of the flooring and stuff like that. And I can zoom in a bit so you can see the wrinkles and everything. And doing this with displacement would be a lesson in frustration because this is so much easier. You can just sculpt it in and be done with it. Modeling stuff like this is good for you for several reasons. Like I mentioned before, not only is it cheaper and it develops your skills, you get to keep this stuff. And that's kind of nice because you can use it 100 times and you can also sell it. So not only is it cheaper, it can actually make money for you, which is not a bad deal, kind of, if you have to do it anyway. So this is another good example. This chandelier thingy took all of 6 minutes to model, 7 maybe, which is less time than it would take you to Google the thing. So yes, modeling is very important. And yes, at this point, I should probably tell you that the sofa I've shown you and this whole process took from 0 to final image 3 hours and 15 minutes. Single person. And I have to say, when I was doing this talk in Vienna, I lied because I thought it was less than 3 hours. But it turns out that our screen capture software kind of botched one part of the video and it didn't appear. So it looks shorter when I put it into After Effects. So it was an honest mistake. But it's more than 3 hours, but slightly more for a single person. And I don't think anybody can disagree that that's very fast for something that looks like this. So yes, again, modeling is very important. And that being said, I'm going to touch up on some other subjects now, which, what? Ah, yes. Gordon Ramsay is right again. So, He actually has a show called like this, which inspired me for the next part of this talk. Hotels. Hotels are a classic real-life example of where things can go wrong. So you have your Sheratons, Excelsiors, whatever hotel chains, and they do their thing for a lot of years. They are very specific about what they want, and the reason they hire you is because if they're renovating a hotel, they are planning to spend millions of euro to refurbish, let's say, 50 rooms. They want to be sure that their millions of monies are spent properly. So every detail, every texture, every wall plug, every socket, everything has to be exactly as specified in this kilometer-long Excel sheet, which usually opens with errors and stuff like that, which is normal, probably. So what you'll end up with is models and textures which are so specific and, found by some random interior designer on some random web shop obscure thingy. There is no chance in hell you will find all the models you need, like, to buy. Because who in their right mind would model that? Like, no. So it's up to you. And then you realize that without being like really good at this stuff, there is no way you can finish a job like this. It's impossible. How? Because they don't want, this. They don't want this. They don't want similar. They want the exact thing they sent you. And so we much rather do this. And put yourself in the client position. Isn't it better? Let's say you go and you want to buy a car. You say, I want a car with, this color. You'd be kind of disappointed if they told you, yeah, but there's no car in that color. But if somebody told you, well, we don't have it right now, but we can get one for you, it sounds kind of nicer. You feel better about it. And that's always good for, client relationships. So this is kind of the hotel thing you end up doing. This is actually a sculpture from a Croatian sculptor. And there's no 3D model of that thing, right? Who would, just randomly come and say, oh, I'm going to do a series of Croatian sculptures and sell them on TurboSquid because, reasons. No. So you got to do it, right? And basically everything in this room, I think, except this chair was modeled from scratch because they had these very weird, desires. And, this is also a hotel example, which brings me to a nice question. Can anybody tell me where the post work on this image is? No. It's this thing. Well, this is our post work here. Just so you know. So, optimization. As I mentioned a lot of times during the talk, we tend to optimize everything a lot. And once you set up your brain to think where you can save time, how you can save time, it starts from the little things and it goes to big things. I'll give you a stupid example. When you're working in 3ds Max, for example, you have a cylinder, and a cylinder has a lot of faces on top and the bottom. So if you want to select them, you have to click each and every one of them. And if the cylinder has a lot of segments, you'll be clicking a lot of times, which lasts like a few minutes. But if you select the center vertex and then control click the faces, it will select all of those faces, and you will do it in 1 second. And this is probably the most simple and stupidest example of how this whole optimizing thing works. Because if you can use a second to do something that takes minutes, you can use minutes to do something that takes weeks. But you only have to start thinking about it. And every kind of thing like that. So, for example, if ArchViz, then kitchens, right? You always do kitchens. Kitchens are boxy, they have cupboards and everything, they always look the same. So, but they're kind of different sized. It stands to reason that instead of doing all of those cupboards each and every time from scratch, it's kind of better to write a script which will actually do cupboards. So we did that. We have an object inside Max which is called lazy cabinet, I think. And then you just click, add shelves and stuff. It's a shelf, it's a cabinet, it's a cupboard, it's a whatever you want it. And suddenly, we can finish a model of a kitchen in minutes instead of maybe an hour or two. And every step you take in optimizing your workflow adds up and multiplies, but there is this thing where when you need to know when to stop. And programmers, people generally who do and understand code will understand this part, because sometimes you really want to write it down and make a script for something which will probably take you 5 hours to write, and you could have done that something in 5 minutes. So yes, sometimes it kind of has diminishing returns, but it's up to you to not go too far into this and recognize when something's just not worth it. But with all the tasks you will have to do again and again and again, you want to optimize things. And well, this whole thing I've been talking about for almost an hour, how does it actually work with client relations? I have a question for you. So this is the brief. You get an email which says exactly this. It has no files, no nothing, no plans, no anything, no images, nothing. So this is it. If you assume it's a guy you know, so it's not some random internet dude from, I don't know, Vietnam. It's a guy you know. You worked with him before, and he sends you this. How many of you would take a project like this? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. Okay, so I suggest all of you to rethink some of the stuff, because what we did in the end, it was this. It doesn't really show up well on this projector, but the guy didn't say anything. He wanted a building, an RC track, which was very fun to investigate. And well, I may have a few drones as well, which are radio controlled, so it's kind of fun. And well, we did a parking lot, some forest, stuff like that, and we sold 15 images. And we could have said no. We could have said the classic, yeah, but do you have any plans? No. You have no plans? No. No design plans? No. Okay, then we won't do it. But why? Why wouldn't you do it? It's not something you have to be really strict about. Sometimes, yes, if somebody says, I want to make a 50,000 square meter office building and says, I have no plans, yes, that may be a problem. But if somebody says it's a radio-controlled racing track in the middle of the woods with a building, it can be anything. Nobody cares. So yeah, why not? It was actually very fun to do. And we also render weddings. And I'm not even joking, that's the worst part. This is an actual wedding. We were asked to make a visualization of a wedding. And yeah, sure, I mean, it's very fun. I know for a fact that Fabio rendered a bar mitzvah as well. Yeah. So there you go. There's crazy kinds of jobs out there, so why not?
Part was the chopping off the foreskin.
Don't say that. Don't say that. This is being recorded, dude. And we get to my final important slide, which I kind of have 30 seconds left for, maybe. Not really, but, we all know the story about the emperor who wears no clothes, right? And since we're dabbling with and we are kind of intertwined with the art world, and I have a big problem usually when it comes to these subjects, because yes, in the art world, the emperor very usually doesn't have any clothes. The whole talk, the way the art world talks, is made to be self-sufficient. It's not for common people to understand. So it sounds very smart. The reality of it is that if you have been a part of the art world for a very long time, that's all bull beep, right? And in 3D, in ArchViz, similar things are happening. So when you look at the images, you look at the competitions and what people are producing, it's beautiful stuff. And what I want to say is the real life of ArchViz doesn't look like that. The real life of ArchViz doesn't mean one of the top 10 world architects will come to you, say, make me one image, you have 2 months, I'll give you 50,000 euro. This is not going to happen. The real life is something completely different. And yes, most of the companies, the renders they show are not the only renders they do. We all have stuff which we sold the clients which doesn't really look like anything I would like to show. But it's not your fault. I can testify that all our previews, so the first preview we send to our customer, always looks better than the final render. Always. But it's just what happens, and in the end, they're paying it. They're paying for it. You are there to give them what they want, while steering them to something which is not as distasteful as it would be if they were doing it themselves. Which is pretty much the same what architecture is, after all. You get a client, he wants a house, you're an architect, so he wants what he wants, and you want to give it to him, but in a way that kind of looks decent. It's not going to be pretty, right, 90% of the time, because, there's the wife and the flowers on the curtains and everything, and it happens. So, but, you try. So basically, as long as you keep a high standard and you deliver what your clients want, you're doing good stuff. And I'm saying that because I know for a fact that a lot of people, especially people who are new to this industry, feel really bad because they see these amazing, insane images which look totally cool, and it's how did they do this stuff? You won't be doing that anyway. You shouldn't feel bad if starting out and you don't know how to do this Hollywood-style, super atmospheric imagery. No, because the work you're going to be getting doesn't really require it. And you can look at a lot of architectural competition stuff, which has a completely different design, a completely different artistic feel than the average real estate stuff. But if you look at the situation in the world, so architectural competitions are this, and real estate is this. So there's a lot of jobs here, and there's not a lot of jobs here. So I'll leave it to you to calculate, which kind of jobs you'll be getting, probably. And yes, you shouldn't never feel bad about, seeing that awesome super turbo stuff online and wondering how did I do it. And yeah, some of these images took months. Some of these images took a lot of people, and some took a lot of money. So basically, all I'm saying is that, you shouldn't feel bad about it. That's just to keep a positive note about it all. And you shouldn't believe everything you read because, well, the realities of this job, I'm finishing, I promise. The realities of this job are, well, different than what people usually talk about. And you're supposed to ask me stuff now, but there's obviously no time for it.
Yeah, we're not going to have time. Maybe outside. We have one question just online because I want to share with you. This is with our application.
So how big is the render farm, and do we use the render manager? Yes, the render farm is about 400 cores, and we use Deadline.
Great. Thank you again. Amazing presentation. Just amazing.